the World Marathon Majors is very, at the moment, sort of European and US centric. They want to really have a global series, so to speak. So from their point of view, to expand and really create a truly global series, they need to go to the big areas that they're not, so to speak. Realistically, Asia, China is a big one, Singapore, but you're looking at Africa and you're looking at sort of South America as well. Singapore is very much, it's a truly global city. It has all the amenities, airports, hotels and infrastructure that makes a truly global city. If I'm flying, and I've been flying into Asia for the last 15 sort of years, my flights usually come through Singapore. We've run marathons in Bangkok. Very difficult. If you look at just look at, for instance, driving in Bangkok, Jakarta, Manila, all those areas, and trying to get transport around those cities, it is pretty difficult. Singapore, basically the infrastructure they've built, the public transport systems they've built, they've done it very well. The underground systems, all those kind of things really work well. There's limited cars on the road, so it all works here. So again, it ticks those boxes in those areas. I'd be conflicting myself if I said it was an easy city to run. Singapore has a large history of organisation. Singapore airport is the best airport. It always wins the best airport in the world. Yeah. It's seamless. You come in, your bags, usually by the time you walk through customs,
it's true.
Walk through your bags are already there, and off you go. It's truly amazing. It's a sort of breath of fresh air after you've been to some of the airports around the world. That level of efficiency goes across everything in Singapore. Everyone does military service here, so everyone is very much well trained, so to speak, from that perspective. So the level of organisation across Singapore is at a very high level.
So that makes it easy for you to organise a marathon?
No, it makes it even harder.
Why?
Because there is so many layers of government that you need to appease. Singapore works on very much, it's a Singapore for Singaporeans. We just went to New York and we took a delegation from Singapore. Now, the whole of New York shuts down for the marathon. The whole of London basically shuts down for the marathon. Everyone from those two countries come out. There's I think London has over 1 million spectators. Everyone comes out and they just basically cheer, they're partying, they're celebrating, they're just loving, the whole vibe of those events. And there might be some sort of complaints, but you don't really hear about them. And I think the government works on, and it was the same in Australia where I came from. If there's cons and there's pros, and the pros outweigh the cons, then government will always support those things. Singapore works on a different level that realistically every complaint is taken seriously. Every inconvenience to a Singapore resident is taken very seriously. So we, organisation-wise for the Singapore Marathon, the detail that we go into is by far tenfold compared to some of the biggest events I've run in the Asia-Pacific region. Bringing the World Marathon Majors to Singapore, fantastic idea. Everyone sort of think this is great, and they've worked through the economic benefits like New York does. And last year was the first year that we had 90% full road closures. We've never had that in the past. So we've gone through steps of sort of organisation to take it to that next level of being. When we first came on and acquired the marathon, basically 2.5, 3 years ago, a lot of the run and all the runs in Singapore are basically on paths around. There's a lot of runs here. We're the only one that really closes roads down. I would say the first year that we were involved, really only had 50%. Road closures. A lot of it was paths. You had a lot of congestion issues because, we'd always have slip lanes with cars and bits and pieces. Okay. So it was pretty hard. We took a lot of time to work with government in regards to sort of saying, hey, there's a couple of things we need to work here. One, we need to solve the problem. We had 50,000 runners, but the congestion was terrible. People couldn't really run. This year is the first year that we're up to about 95% full road closures. And I think we're getting to an interim. This year has all been about, and this is the first year that we've got all the government agencies now working with us. Before they were like just looking at us and going, Now they're basically on board and working with us on how we can do this better, how we can bring it to that global standard. We're still not there yet. I mean, it's still for Singapore, it has to go to cabinet. It has to go to the highest level of government. I think that there is within the government realms, definitely they get it. But there's other parts of government that basically goes, well, that's great, but you're also going to inconvenience the community, and we don't do that. We run a really good event, and I think we've improved the event dramatically over the last 3 years. And this year, we're taking it again to another level. But we start at 4:30 in the morning. We don't have the million spectators. We don't have those things. We don't have the history of the World Marathon Majors. We're sort of a up and coming young city. We're only 50 years old, basically, as a country, 53. We're young. This city is fantastic at night. It's a night city. It's under lights, all those kind of things. So the World Marathon Majors that we've been working with them basically say, look, you just don't have the wow factor that will put you on a par with those other 6 majors. What we need to do, and I can see it happening, and it'll happen overnight if we can get there, is to change that 4:30 a.m. start to basically an evening event. So we might start at 6 p.m.
Why?
Because if you go for a run at Marina Bay Sands at 7 a.m. in the morning, you will have the whole place to yourself. Singapore, most people, they have a different sort of working, they work late and start sort of later.
Okay.
So 7 p.m. at night, it is full of people going to the hawker markets. It's full of people running and jogging and doing fitness activities. It's people full in the bars and the clubs and the restaurants. The lights come on, the laser light show at Marina Bay, all those things that really sell the place. So we know that, to get that wow factor and to get a crowd, to get the spectator numbers that we need, that can only happen at night. So this is the big thing that we're working through with government. And it's not about, most tourism organisations would go, oh, I want that. Because the economic impact, the media value, all those kind of things are very significant. But Singapore, at the same time, will always go through the process. Yeah, that is fantastic. But they want to balance that with the benefits to the community. And I think it will happen, like it has happened in London and New York and all those, and Tokyo and those cities where, realistically, if we've done our job properly, we become the producer, the facilitator, and the community is the one that supplies the wow factor, supplies the atmosphere, supplies just the whole experience for the
How many runners are you expecting?
This year we were 47,000. We'll be at 50,000 by race day. And that's going to be a criteria. That's one of our KPI. We need to have over 15,000 finishes in it. And I think, and we've been growing significantly in the last 3 years. We've pretty much been growing a couple of thousand each year in the marathon. So I'm very confident, but I never like to sort of put a number on it. But I know that there's a lot of pressure on this year for it to happen. We've got pretty much 90% of government supportive of officially sort of tendering and going the full hog for World Marathon Majors. This year, like I said, for us, it has to be an all agencies event. It has to be considered a national event, and again, that has to go to the highest level of government. So this year we have put in so many levels of sort of different organisations, different government agencies, being part of it, command centres and all kinds of things. It's huge. So we've got to get it right, and we're ticking every single box we can, and government is on board. If this year's event, to be honest, if it goes nice and seamlessly, then it will go to cabinet, and then cabinet will make a decision on what is the future. And I think if it goes to cabinet, we'll basically then get the big nod, and the whole of government will come on board. We have to have full support of government. That's the crucial factor in everything. Then you go back to the criteria of the World Marathon Majors, and we've got to have 2 successful runnings of full criteria, which basically means that we need to run it in 19 and 20 as a evening event with every box ticked.